What's up YouTube, Saf here on Super Saf TV and welcome to the epic Super Saf style camera comparison, this time between the Samsung Galaxy S8 and the LG G6. So in the usual style, we'll be looking at both the front and rear facing cameras, at images as well as video too. Do also look out for the audio icon in the corner of the screen, and that will indicate to you which device the audio is coming from, and I'll be switching between these two to give you guys a better idea of the differences in audio as well. So we're currently in my car, we've got plenty of daylight coming in. We're using the front-facing cameras on both devices. The interesting thing about the G6 is that we can switch between a standard as well as a wide-angle view. So we're in standard right now. Now we're in the wide angle, so we can get in much more in our shot, and we can switch between these two whenever we like. Now on the S8, we do have Quad HD compared to Full HD on the G6. So this video is at 1080p, but that means we can crop in if we need to on the S8, and we do have more resolution. So we're going to run outside and we're going to go outside. We will run and test out the stabilization, and then we'll do lots of low light tests and things. So let's get straight to it. So now we're outdoors. We're just going to take a bit of a walk and see how well these do for stabilization. Let's take a bit of a run now. We've now switched to the wide angle camera on the G6. Once again, same test. Now we've switched to the rear facing camera and we are filming at 4K. This video is exported out at 1080p just so we can crop in and see more detail. And now at 4K, let's try to take a bit of a walk. Let's run. Still at 4K, and now we've got the wide angle camera on the G6. Once again, just running. Now we're at 1080p and just gonna do a bit of a run. Cameras are usually a little bit more stable at 1080, so let's see how much difference that makes. Now we're doing the same thing but with the wide angle camera. Now we're indoors under room lighting with the G6 and just testing out the autofocus. Seems to be doing okay. Now same lighting with the S8 and check that out. Boom. That's the dual pixel autofocus working there, and it is definitely quicker than the G6. So that was the video. Now before we move on to the images, let's go over what we're working with here. On the G6 you have a 5 megapixel front facing camera with an f2.2 aperture. The S8 and S8 Plus have an 8 megapixel front facing camera with an f1.7 aperture as well as autofocus. For the rear facing cameras, things get a little bit more interesting. The S8 and S8 Plus have a single 12 megapixel camera with an f1.7 aperture and optical image stabilization. The G6 has a dual camera setup, both 13 megapixels, one's a standard angle lens with an f1.8 aperture as well as optical image stabilization, and then we have a secondary wide angle lens which has an f2.4 aperture. If you like the skins that I've got here on my devices and want to pick some up for yourself, then definitely check out our sponsor for this video, Dbrand. It's a great way to customize the look of your device, and I'll be leaving a link to them in the description below. Now one final thing to bear in mind is that all images and video have been taken on auto. I haven't tweaked any settings, and that's because the majority of people do shoot like this, and this way things are as fair as possible. So starting off with some selfies, we've got a selfie here in my car. I think both are doing pretty good. Not so great in terms of dynamic range, but it was a very bright day. I think you can tell straight away that the S8 does have a sharper image. And when we go in 100%, this is a lot more clear, and that is because we have 8 megapixels versus 5. The G6 isn't doing too bad, but especially if you look towards my beard, it is very, very soft compared to the sharp detail that you've got on the S8. Now on the G6, you can switch between a standard or a wide angle for the front-facing camera. I'm not sure how this works actually because it looks like it is software, not hardware, but this is going to allow you to have a much wider shot as you can see here. And the detail on this, as well as the dynamic range, actually looks better than the previous standard angle. But if we do go in 100%, once again, the detail is still not as sharp as the S8. Now testing out a low light selfie, this is in extreme low light outside under street lighting. I think the S8 is doing better here. You've got a brighter image and it's also a little bit more detailed. Testing out the wide angle of the G6, the wide angle here is actually doing worse than the standard angle.
I would personally give the win here to the S8. Using the front-facing flash where it illuminates the display, the S8 is more sharp and it's also brighter. Although I do like the colors a little bit better on the G6. If I was to pick one, it would be the S8 however. And also testing out the wide angle here, seems to be doing a little bit better this time compared to the standard angle, but I still think the S8 is doing better in terms of detail and sharpness. Now moving on to an outdoor image in good light, both of these are doing excellent. You've got some nice shallow depth of field. The colors are great as well. Going in 100%, you can see lots of detail. I think this is a draw. Both are doing exceptionally well. Now an outdoor wide image here, I think both are doing great once again. But this is where the G6's wide angle camera will definitely come into play. And switching that on, you can see that we can have so much more in the shot. Not only do we have the full landscape, but we also have some of the foreground. You can see here I was on a bridge, and some of that is still maintained in the shot. You do get some distortion towards the end, as you can see here, but it is still a great option for your landscapes. Now moving on to some low light shots. So here we're indoors. I think both are doing decent. The S8 seems to be a tad sharper, but let's go outside to really test these out. And here on this shot, you can clearly see that the S8 is doing better. We've got much more green on the tree in the background. And the sign is also a lot brighter. This is a lot more obvious when we go in 100%. The text is much sharper here on the S8 compared to the G6. And just for argument's sake, here is the wide angle lens in low light. It's never going to do as good as the primary lens, because it has an f2.2 aperture compared to the f1.8, and it doesn't have optical image stabilization. Finally, a shot using the flash on both. I think both are doing pretty good, just slight differences in color. I think I prefer the cooler tones here on the S8. There's a bit of a green tint here on the G6. So guys, that was the Super SAF style camera comparison between the Samsung Galaxy S8 and the LG G6. To conclude, I think for the front-facing camera, the S8 is definitely sharper with more resolution, both for images and video. And the video was also more stable compared to that of the G6. I also found that the S8 was better in low-light selfies. Now, the one advantage that you do have on the G6 is the option to switch between standard and wide angle. And this is going to be particularly useful if you take lots of group shots, or Wi-Fi's as some of you like to call them. Now for outdoor images, I think both were great, but the G6 gets the advantage because of that wide angle camera. So for landscapes and things, this is going to be ideal. You're going to be able to get so much more in your shot compared to the standard angle lens of the S8. But the S8 was much better in low light situations with brighter and sharper images. And for video as well, I'd have to give the edge to the S8. The video was more stable. You also had better dynamic range, and autofocus was also a lot faster on the S8 because of that dual pixel autofocus compared to the G6. Finally, for audio, I'll let you guys go back and have a listen, but I did prefer the audio of the S8. I think the noise cancellation is better and the audio just seemed a lot cleaner to me. That's what I think anyway. What do you think? Do drop me a comment below and let me know your thoughts. If you want to see many more images from lots of devices, then definitely give me a follow on Instagram. I'm at SuperSafTV. Also want to say a thanks to Clove Technology for sending the review unit of the G6. I'll also leave a link to them in the description below if you want to pick up the G6 or another unlocked device. I hope you enjoyed this video and found it useful. If you did, then please do hit that thumbs up button for me. It really does help me out. And if you haven't already, then be sure to subscribe and switch on notifications because there's plenty more content coming up on here. Thanks for watching. This is Saf on SuperSafTV, and I'll see you next time.